Hello everybody, it's great to be back. I did come down with the COVID-19, but thank God I'm through with it. It's in the past and we're moving right along. This week's Torah portion talks about a skin malady which no longer exists today. It was known as tazria-metzoraj. I guess the closest English interpretation would be leprosy. And this is a skin disease that a person would develop due to speaking lashon hara, speaking negatively about others. Next week's Torah portion, the Torah tells us another mitzvah of lo telech rachil ba'amecha. Do not go amongst your people and talk gossiping. Don't gossip. In fact, the way the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, puts it, Ezehu Rachil, who is considered Rachil, a gossiper. Zeh sheto'en dvarim v'holech mizeh lezeh, someone who goes from one to the next person and he says, this is what such and such a person said, this is what I heard about the other. They may all be true. All the information being conveyed may be absolutely true. Ve'enan dvarim shel gnai klal. In fact, there's nothing negative about anyone at all. And even that person about whom they are speaking, lo makchisham klal, doesn't deny it. Nonetheless, the Torah says you may not gossip. In fact, there's a story in the Torah we will read later on, which involves the sister of Moses, Miriam. And she spoke about Moses to her brother Aaron. All she said was that Moses has left his wife. And because of this, she develops this tazria-metzoraj, this leprosy. The entire Jewish camp waits for 7 days till she's cured, and then they continue to travel. We need to understand, what is it that's so terrible about gossiping, speaking negatively? This is all common talk, and today it's probably not even talk. We communicate through WhatsApps, and we're always talking about other people. Why is the Torah so bothered and so concerned by this? In fact, the Rambam, Maimonides, asks the same question, and the way he puts it, he says, think about what happened to Miriam, the prophetess. She spoke about her brother, whom she was older than, and in fact she brought him up. She endangered her life to save him from the Nile, and she didn't speak negatively at all about him. She simply stated a fact, and Moses himself didn't even mind, and yet she was punished with leprosy. But why? This is the difficulty that we're going to try and understand today. So I want to share with you two perspectives from the Rebbe on this. One idea is, in the Haggadah, when we sit down at the Seder table, we say, Chacham, Mahu Omer. What does the wise one say? Rasha, Mahu Omer. What does the wicked one say? And so on. It has been said that this can be interpreted in another way too. Chacham, if you want to know if someone is wise, Mahu Omer, you can tell by what they speak about. You want to tell if someone's wicked or simple and so on, listen to what it is that they talk about. And so the Rebbe says that although the Talmud says that speaking negatively about another person harms all three, the person speaking, the person listening, and the person about whom they are speaking, yet there is exceptional harm that's done to the person who speaks negatively about others. And that is that they involve themselves with negativity. It may all be true. It's much worse, of course, if it's untrue. But they lower themselves. They ruin their own standing. That's one perspective. Another idea on a different occasion the Rebbe shared, and he said that in general, we must make great efforts to speak positively and describe things positively. So for example, the Rebbe himself was a perfect example of this. In Hebrew, a hospital is referred to usually as a bet cholim, a home for the sick. The injured of Tzahal, wounded soldiers, are called nechei Tzahal, which means wounded soldiers. The Rebbe would never refer to them that way. When he spoke about wounded soldiers, he said we should really call them Mutzuyonei Tzahal, the exceptional soldiers. When he spoke about hospitals, he said they should be called Batei Refuah, homes of healing, not homes for the sick. And in fact, this attitude of the Rebbe has made inroads in Israel today, where what used to be called Kupat Cholim, which was the office that took care of the ill, is now called Shirutei Havra'ah, which means services of healing. Many hospitals are no longer called Bet Cholim, homes for the sick. They're called Merkaz Refu'i, a healing center. And in fact, I personally have always wondered, and it struck me as really uncomfortable, when you go downtown and you see the hospital for sick kids, or sick kids hospital. I think it's quite negative to describe a hospital as for sick kids. I think that it should rather be a place of healing for children. So to focus on the positive. And so the idea when the Torah talks about us not being involved in Lashon Hara, speaking negatively and gossiping, is because that's who we become. We become associated with negativity. We involve ourselves in negativity. It lowers us. And in general, we should rather be focusing on the positive. And on that note, today is Rosh Chodesh, at the beginning of a new month, and so is Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh. But it's Rosh Chodesh of the month of Iyar. And we're taught that the Hebrew month Iyar can also spell out the verse in the Torah where God says, Ani Hashem Rofecha, I, God, am your healer. No better time than now to invoke God's blessings for healing, His blessings that we all, especially those that are suffering and need real health, that He provide them with that, and that things become much better for all of us, so that soon we can once again get together and meet in shul happily and for simchas.